What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Ohio State Football with Scarlet N Great here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us again for this midweek edition and Penn State preview. The Penn State preview has historically been and always good shows for us. It's a big-time game. As always, the Nittany Lions seem to play the Buckeyes close, and we are going to preview just how hot James Franklin's seat might be with a loss. Now, you guys know that he was signed to a deal, extra money, extra buyout. I just have to think after the beatdown that the Wolverines handed him, that another one has to make people start to scratch their head, right? So we're going to talk about that and the offensive MVP or defensive MVP, the MVP for Ohio State so far this season, because in these big games and in bigger games coming up, you always know you need one big player to step up. So that's what we are going to talk about. Please, guys, remember to subscribe to the channel and have your notifications turned on so that you can know when each and every edition of the show is coming out. Also, we're going to do a giveaway, so please continue to subscribe. You guys got us past that 4,800 threshold that we asked for. So help us get to 5,000 so we can give away a nice hoodie and a Scarlet N Great mug. It will be all yours if we continue to grow the channel. We'll pick a lucky winner to go ahead and get that underway. So before I bring in, that's all I wanted to say before I bring in my wonderful co-host, Mr. Florida Cory, the man with two names. Two first names, Florida Cory.
Florida's the first name.
How are you doing?
Doing great, man.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Okay.
Hoping I get to watch the Ohio State game this week. As it happens, I don't want to have to be working.
Well, real fans watch it on delay. Real fans DVR. That's what they say. So that's what my great-great-grandma always said.
That's what Abraham Lincoln said, actually. Quote.
So, Cory, your favorite guy is going to be coaching opposite the Buckeyes this coming Saturday. James Franklin, who you've coined as a snake oil salesman, has sold his way into a bigger contract, and I don't know exactly why. I guess maybe Penn State standards aren't what I thought they were. Maybe they are just saying we accept less. Cory, it's been a 6-year drought. 6-year drought since he did something really meaningful, like win Big Ten championship, beat Ohio State. And I have to think that after what Michigan did to them, that was pretty embarrassing. That was supposed to be a good game. And
not if you listen to Scarlet N Great.
Well, yeah, you predicted 2 scores. They gave you three or four. So, I mean, Even you gave James Franklin too much credit, and that's hard.
Well, he got 17. I said he'd get 20. I mean,
yeah. Well, Cory, you have to think that if they get smacked again today, that people have to start talking, right? Because unless I'm wrong, I used to think people in Happy Valley really cared about football and were really passionate about it. I mean, the whiteout's one of the most beautiful sights in all sports. Are their standards just less?
Does it mean less in Happy Valley? That's what you're asking.
Pretty much.
You know, it's funny because again, James Franklin did win the Big Ten one year, and kudos to him for that. I don't think they got lucky that year or whatever happened, but they finally beat Ohio State in a whiteout. It hasn't happened since. He's given Ohio State a run for their money a few times. There's no question about that. He's good. I think he's a good motivator. He gets his team up for some of these games. But I'll tell you what, you look at that Michigan-Penn State game, and it was even fluky. It was that close at 41-17 because honestly, that one was a goofy batted ball in the air, pick six, and the other touchdown was just Sean Clifford. Everybody bit on the running back, and Clifford took off and he had a long gain. Then it took him till 4th and goal, I think, to even get the touchdown. Just honestly, it could have easily been 41-3 that game. It could have very easily or more. I mean, it was that bad. It was a complete beatdown. And the funny part is I left during the game before it got to be that bad because I went to go meet a friend for lunch. But you could see in between the 20s, like Michigan's owning them. It is over. This game is over. Michigan is just running at will on this team. And Michigan had struggled the past few weeks. They hadn't looked great the past few weeks. So it makes Penn State look even worse going into that game. Like, Michigan
that Maryland and Iowa could give them more of a game.
Yeah, exactly. Maryland especially. And Ann Arbor, gave Michigan more of a game than Penn State did. I don't know. I think if he comes out and we blow them out at Happy Valley, I do think his seat's getting a little warm. Like, okay, James, you're not the guy to take us up. But again, like you said, do they even care? They were the ones trying to shut us down during COVID. Do they even care about football?
Yeah, I just can't help but wonder, Cory, are they accepting that they're a Virginia Tech with Frank Beamer? They're Bill Snyder at Kansas State.
Yeah,
where
flare up once in a while. Yeah.
Right. We got our guy. We like him. He knows what it means to be part of this program. He's a staple, kind of like what Joe Pa was at the end, because they didn't expect championships from him, but they expected just hang around, be pretty good, and then blow up from time to time. And then that way, Herb Street, the day that you start dethroning the champ once every decade, Herb Street and Fowler can talk about the buy-in and how the program you built and everybody that doubted this man and how he's wrong. And I'm like, really? Because he wins once in a decade? I mean, Cory, you shouldn't, with top 15 recruiting classes, you shouldn't be that bad. And this is the other thing. This is why I really think the guy needs to go. The team, it's not that he loses to really good teams. It's that there's always a piece of his team that goes, oh my goodness. How is that one aspect of the game that bad? So, yeah, comment hot or not. If you think a blowout really warms this seat for James Franklin, like Cory, case in point, Saquon Barkley's years and the years following, terrible O-line play. Since Trace McSorley left, the offense is just, how can you be have top 15 team, top 15 recruiting classes and have an offense this bad? He's an offensive guy, Cory. Isn't it curious?
Mike Yursich.
He hired him. Isn't it curious, Cory, though, that Joe Moorhead and Saquon Barkley made a nice offense together. Yeah, and if the offensive line was better, but again, it's his guys. Does he miss certain positions even though he's recruiting well? Like, I just don't understand how is Sean Clifford the best a Power 5 top 15 program can have? Is
this a situation where Penn State fans who defend him are doing the Harbaugh thing in Michigan? It takes 7 years to build a program at Penn State. It's just like, we're still recovering from the sanctions back in 10, 15 years ago, whatever they were. Look, I look at it this way. I think Franklin's done about all he can. I think it's he's peaked at Penn State. And now, granted, if he comes out and beats Ohio State on Saturday, then obviously I look like an idiot, which, very possible. I've looked like an idiot before. You know this as well as anybody, Johnny. So you're quick to point it out. You're quick to point it out. But that being said, I don't anticipate that. And I'll be honest with you, if this were last year with Kerry Combs, I'd be like, no, I'm a little worried about this game because anything could happen. But Jim Knowles has given me that confidence. Like, our defense will play well. Thank you, Jimmy Knowles, for that. You've restored my faith in the Silver Bullets. I'm gonna go ahead on right here and say, Johnny, I totally agree with you. Sign him to a lifetime contract. Just get it over with. But anyway, that's another story. But I just want to agree with my co-host here. I think he's peaked. I just don't think he's going to go anywhere necessarily. I don't think he's going to ever be able to build that team that's going to challenge for a national title. I think Big Ten every once in a while is kind of what you can hope for with James Franklin. But to be honest with you, if he were in the Big Ten West, he'd probably go to the Big Ten title game almost every year, and he'd probably get beaten by Michigan or Ohio State. So
you're banking that he doesn't lose games he shouldn't, though.
I mean, I think he could beat the Minnesotas of the world like he just did.
I do too, but doesn't he also seem to have that layer of doubt?
Yeah, but again, they lose a lot of games in the West. I mean, every one of them is going to have 2 or 3 losses, generally speaking. Illinois is like the one exception this year. It looks like Illinois is on their way to the Big Ten title game versus whoever wins between Michigan and Ohio State. But I'll be honest, it's just like you know what could be great though this week. Let's just say it turns. I mean, it's a noon game, so it's not as prolific as a whiteout. But I'm hoping that C.J. Stroud can get tested. They can test C.J. Stroud a little bit, test his mettle a little bit. I want to see the kids step up and be that tough guy that we need him to be. Be that dog that we need him to be. Okay, so I don't want it to be a close game, mind you. I'd love to see us blow them out, obviously. But if it's a game we're in the fourth quarter where we're down by 4, we need a 2-minute drive to go ahead and win the game. Can CJ do it or not? Is what I'm curious about. So he really hasn't had to do that other than
he did get strip sacked for a touchdown last game in the first quarter, and it took him 2.5 quarters after that to wake up. So.
Yeah, well, if that just means we're being negative. Be honest with you, I've talked to CJ's biggest defenders on the phone. Our buddy Kyle, he thinks CJ is going to be the greatest quarterback in Ohio State history. He even came to me and said, "Yeah, he wasn't good." So, guys, I'm telling you, it ain't just us, So we wasn't that good until halfway through the third quarter. So but I'm wondering if this is where I'm concerned, Johnny. Think about this for just a second. Now we're in a position at Ohio State where I think the defense will come out and ball out and play great. I'm not sure what CJ Stroud we're going to get. Yeah, I'm not sure what CJ Stroud we're going to get. Does he start off hot? I mean, we're going to have JSN back. Does he kind of take a while to get going? I mean, it's like statistically speaking, until the Michigan game, Penn State's front 4 is not bad. They can get to the quarterback. So what CJ do we get? The rattled CJ, or do we get the gunslinger who's just throwing it all over the field to all of it? I mean, he got JSN, Marvin Harrison, Emeka, Egbuka, Julian Fleming, who now is a legitimate threat. We can honestly say that. You have 4 potential NFL wide receivers there. And you have a good offensive line, one of the best offensive lines in college football. There's no freaking excuse. Don't start off slow. You can pull this off. So if we start off slow, it could be one of those games,
or staring receiver down, throwing it straight to the defender type games. You can't have that because momentum in Happy Valley. You don't want that. As bad as he seems to get rattled.
I even listened to Locked On with Jay Stevens, who's CJ defender, and he even said, yeah, he wasn't great. Yeah.
For a kid that doesn't like contact, this is a game where you go, should we have a kid who doesn't like contact? Because for all Penn State's failures, James Franklin does recruit good front sevens on defense who are physical. But Cory, for the sake of time, I'm going.
Sorry, I know I got off on a rant there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Now, I think the Nittany Lions play us tougher. I don't believe in year-to-year stuff, except when it comes to one program always playing. There are certain rules. Purdue will always beat the spread against Ohio State. Ever since the Kenny Guyton years, they just give you times, when they should. Penn State is a lot of times the same. And this should be a really big beatdown game, but I'm going with like a 38-20 type of score where you don't pull away till late. What kind of stuff you got for us on that front?
Going 42 to, similar to Michigan. I'm going 42-17, but it's close until halfway through the third quarter. It's like 27-17. No, that wouldn't make sense. But, 28-17. And then a couple of late touchdowns in the fourth quarter make it look like a blowout. But it's really kind of like you're on the edge of your seat a little bit. Like it could turn either way with momentum. So I think it's going to be kind of slow going. The defense keeps us in the game, but the offense takes a minute to get going. Maybe a couple turns. I'm going to go ahead and predict CJ throws a pick because he's done it the last 4 games. So I think it's a safe bet at this point. So I just think there's a couple momentum shifts here. Maybe even they get up 17-14 and we have to rally back a little bit. So I think 42-17, but it's like kind of deceptive. Okay,
I'll go with that. Cory, in games like this and coming up with a massive game at the end of the year with that team up north, it seems like you need that one guy to just really elevate his game. That one guy to say, man, this has taken the team. This guy stepped up. If it wasn't for this guy, I don't know if we win the game, right? And I want to talk about who Ohio State's MVP so far this season.
You doing an offense and defensive MVP?
No,
or are you just doing one guy? Okay,
one guy.
Does it have to be a player?
Yep. Yes. Okay. Yes,
I was going to say Jimmy Knowles is my MVP. If it's
that easy. Yeah. One guy for me.
Okay,
You ready?
You go first. I got one. Yeah.
Yep. Emeka Egbuka. All right. Here's why.
Reasons.
Every time we need a big play, when the offense is, even though we're up, the offense is lethargic, he bails us out. A lot of people owe him an apology. People thought, like I said, just because Marv had a Rose Bowl or whatever, even though Emeka was doing what he was doing last year, he was just going to be, an afterthought. He plays the most like JSN of any other receiver. Zach Smith is complimented. He knows a thing or two about wide receiver. He said, when you break film down.
When has Zach ever known about wide receiver?
He said, far and away, when you break the field down, it is unanimous. Emeka Egbuka is the best receiver. He's got the most yards. I know Marv has a few more touchdowns. I think he may have like 130 more yards, and he moves the change. Rushing, he has a rushing touchdown as well. Without him, there are times he really just busts the game open. Without him, I think this offense could have been in a lot of trouble. So a lot of you owe Emeka Egbuka an apology. He's a great player. He's the MVP of this team. He's definitely the MVP of this offense. Tennessee Keith, you and your muscles owe Emeka an apology. He's not an afterthought. Anthony, Dylan Freeman, VP, had it right with me that he would be a stud this year and not an afterthought.
Come on, did Keith really call him an afterthought? That's wow.
No. He just accused me of eating edibles when I said I thought Emeka would have a better year than MHJ. And it's not that I'm eating edibles. It's just I'm smarter than everybody else in the world. What do you got, Cory?
All right. I got one for you. This is gonna blow everybody. Tommy E, MVP. Tommy Eichenberg. I'm going with it. I love him. You know what? He won me over. I was so down on him last year. Little coaching goes a long way. He's taken to the new coaching, and he is putting on MVP performances every single game, even quietly sometimes. What's that?
Bud Kiss winner.
Why not? He's one of the best linebackers in college football. I don't know.
I haven't analyzed
everybody. I don't know if he's the best, but he's one of the best.
I'm getting a jersey.
Yeah.
I've been on Twitter.
35
I've been
is the new 47. Yep.
I've been tweeting that out that it's the next iconic Ohio State linebacker jersey. Cory, have you ever seen a guy improve 1 year that much?
No, because he looked lost last year. He looked like a guy. He looked like the next Tough Borland. And you know what? Maybe Tough would have been good in this defense. I don't want to go that far. I'm sorry, but he would have been better. But Tommy E, man, sideline to sideline, the pick six when we needed against Iowa. He didn't. The way he got it, by the way, he wasn't even like the intended receiver. He just jumped up, snatched the ball, and took it. And then he cut back like a running back against all the flow of the offense trying to tackle him. I don't know. This guy's my MVP. He gets sacks. He gets tackles for losses. He's sideline to sideline. He gets turnovers. He gets the defensive line correctly. He is the MVP because the defense is the biggest story this year.
I love it. People think you were looking at my tweet like you've been on Twitter, but you saw the last video, and when I did tweet from the bleachers.
I have been off Twitter for like a month, by the way.
I did say it's time to admit he's the greatest Ohio State linebacker of all time. Of course, guys don't yell at me, but I just feel like I love him so much that I want to say stupid stuff in his favor. That's how good he is.
He might be the greatest player in Ohio State history at this point.
In the game of football history. Better than Tom Brady. He means more to this team
he's way
than
better
Tom Brady meant to
he's
the
real Tom.
Patriots.
If it's Tom,
Tommy Eichenberg versus time.
If I'm speaking of a football player named Tom, I'm always talking Tommy Eichenberg. Tom Brady can take a back seat. He hasn't done anything compared to what Tommy Eichenberg has done.
You heard it first here, guys. Come back next time and see us for more shenanigans. As always, goodbye. God bless. Go Bucks.